Hello and welcome to this presentation from Pluralsight. My name is Andrew Mallett and we're going to take a look now at how we can configure DNS replication. As we run through the module, we'll be looking at the term zone transfer and understanding what it's all about, and that's the mechanism of our replication. And of course we'll be configuring our slave or secondary DNS server, and we're using our master server based on Ubuntu, but just to show that it can be done, we're going to be using CentOS 7 as our slave DNS server. Both will be using bind. Now, zone transfer is essentially the copying of our zone database from one server to another. It could also be through to a client, so I could use the dig command and AXFR, the name of the zone that I want to transfer and the server that I want to transfer it from. Now, of course, we would normally be implementing restrictions to ensure that transfers could only take place to the designated secondary servers. Also, when we are doing a zone transfer, I can do a transfer from any server that hosts that domain. So, for example, we could have a secondary server synchronizing or replicating with another secondary server. When we configure our slave server, we're going to set the name.conf on the slave server with the zone information. But instead of having type master, it's going to be type slave. We then have to specify the masters that it's going to synchronize with. And as we said before, those masters could actually be other secondary servers. It's really just setting the replication point. Replication will happen automatically at the interval and only if the serial number has been incremented. The first time, though, it will replicate because, of course, it doesn't have a serial number, so the serial numbers will be different. When configuring the name.conf on our CentOS 7 system, we're going to specify the zone in much the same way we did before. And of course, we would set up zone records for both example.com and our reverse lookup zone. Here we're just going to look at it though for example. The type is going to be set to slave. We can set the file. And again, I haven't put a full path here, but I'm using the slave subdirectory. Now on a CentOS system, if we haven't changed the directory directive, this will be pointing through to /var/named/slaves. Now this is a good directory to use because the DNS server, the name daemon, doesn't have rights to create files within the named directory. We don't create this file, the name daemon does during the replication or the initial replication. We can set the address of the masters and then close the record off. The address that we've put in, of course, is the IP address of our Ubuntu host. If you're using different address ranges, then of course use the address range that your master is located on. We should be able to view the activity through the log file. This is going to be var log messages on the CentOS 7 host. So just reading this, we should be able to see then that the zone transfer has been completed and dumped through to the file. If we need to force a transfer, for whatever reason, perhaps we haven't incremented the version number, or perhaps we feel that we just have some corruption, we can then go through and issue the command on the slave rntc retransfer and then the zone that we want to transfer. Now this is our initial setup. We're going to come back later and see that we're going to have to add in some additional name server records. But let's just go through and see now if we can get our slave server up and running.